Okay, so we're 21 days in, and it's got me thinking about a term that I just learned called dialectical thinking. It's the idea that two things can be true at once. Because I've noticed something, especially as a man, there's this constant pressure to be strong and hide everything, to suppress all of the emotions and feelings that you have and not show it to the world, to just move on from something without dealing with it and talking about it, because dealing with it and talking about it shows weakness. It shows that you care. It shows that you have a softness to you, a weakness, or that someone has been able to penetrate your hard shell. But I think I'm a very nuanced person. I tend to think a lot. I tend to have this sensitivity to me. I tend to be very sensitive to things and people that are around me. And this caused me to have to ask myself, is this a weakness or is this a strength that I haven't yet learned to master? Good morning. Hope you all are doing well. I am starting my walk with a little bit of sunlight today. So I kind of waited till the sun started to come up. But I wanted to talk about this concept called dialectical thinking. And I kind of been living in that mindset, that thinking process for a long time. But I didn't know or didn't have a term to put to it. It's basically this idea that two things can exist at the same time. This idea that I can forgive you, but also not trust you at the same time. I can not want to do this and still understand that it's good for me to do. So I'm gonna do it anyway. It's this idea of having a conversation with someone and not agreeing with them, but completely understanding where they come from or where they're coming from. And we have to get into this because I feel like yesterday when I talked about like how I was feeling, it's okay to feel bad or not feel like you want to do something or not be in the mood, but also understand that that mood doesn't dictate how and when or why you do things. It's about like living and being in two places at the same time, understanding both sides of it. I was just dealing with something yesterday that I kind of a coming to terms moment for me. And a lot of experiences, especially as men, we deal with needing to keep the peace, needing to like ensure that things keep moving forward for everyone around us. And a lot of times we have to either swallow pride or we have to just move on. And you know, it's just stuff like that that comes up with us as men that we deal with in private, and we don't really talk about it much, but it happens. And so I think for a lot of us, we have to be better at our thinking process and understand that we have to think in ways that allow us to understand that two things could be true at once. You know, I can disagree with something that you've done, but still love you at the same time. Be angry or mad or upset with you, but still treat you with respect. I think the problem comes when we got people around us who don't have that same mindset. They can't be angry with you and treat you with respect. They can't be upset and not call you names. Those two things should be able to exist at the same time. And so I just want y'all to especially if you're men, to understand that you're not the only one dealing with situations like that. But I want you to research a little bit more about dialectical thinking and how that can help you kind of get through some of these situations. It's helping me right now get through the situation of just understanding, like, this is hard that I'm doing. I can admit that this is hard, but also admit that it's possible that I can continue moving on. Have you noticed that two things can be true at the same time? My name is TJ. Welcome to the page where I take everyday experiences, find a theme, and I turn them into life lessons. Dialectical thinking is holding two seemingly opposite truths all at once. I can believe that someone can love someone, but also understand that that person is not good for them. I can argue with you and disagree and still understand your perspective and where you're coming from. You can be a very strong man and still have a level of sensitivity. As a man, there's a constant pressure to deal with situations and just move on. You're not allowed to talk about it because talking about it too much means you're weak or it shows weakness. I think I'm a very nuanced and sensitive person by nature, but it doesn't make me weak or not strong. I believe that there's a situation for everything. I think there's a time to be a little bit of everything. Sometimes you need to be hard and sometimes you need to be really tough. And then there's times where you need to be sensitive and you really need to understand what's going on and how you're feeling. I think being sensitive can definitely carry a certain burden to it. Being sensitive to people and things around you can be very hard because you feel that weight on you constantly. Sometimes you overthink things. You wonder about how the other person is feeling, how they're thinking, and sometimes those feelings can be very overwhelming. But sensitivity is not a weakness. That same sensitivity, when used with a purpose, can be a strength. Awareness and empathy is not a weakness. The ability to actually connect with people, my friends, my family, my kids, the kids that I coach and mentor, and even the people who I work with. You can process something deeply and still have progress and move forward. Both can be true at the same time. Okay, so I think I'm at the point now where I need to switch things up just a little bit. So let me fully explain this. First, usually before I lift any weights, I try to ensure that it can at least move my body weight. I think people jump to the weights way too fast. If you want to change your body and the way it looks, you're going to have to, at some point, lift some weight. It's called bodybuilding for a reason. Once you start to lift weights and move weights, you can kind of start to sculpt your body to be like you want it to be. I don't recommend doing that before you can lift your own weight by doing pull-ups, push-ups, crunches, things like that, just to get your body moving. I think that should be the prerequisite for doing any sort of workout or getting into any sort of workout. At least 1 to 2 weeks of doing that. I had started walking long time before this. Started doing some push-ups long time before this. Now, one of the biggest issues, and I talked about this before, for me is my legs. I want to grow my legs. Doing what I'm doing as far as like the air squats and stuff like that, that's not gonna grow my legs. Now, it's gonna wake them up. It's gonna, get them activated. But as far as growing them and molding them, I'm going to need to lift heavier weights in order to grow my legs. I am going to switch to a different workout. I'm going to focus on upper body one day, lower body the other day. I'll do 2 days of lower body, 3 days of upper body. Upper body is going to mean I'm going to do pull-ups, push-ups, still same thing, but I want to incorporate some weights with that. So today I'm going to do some chest stuff, but I'm going to do pull-ups first. I'm going to do some push-ups, and then I'm going to go into some chest flies and some chest press. I'm doing this because I want to start to sculpt and change what my body looks like. Also because I think I'm ready to start incorporating some different workouts and start to do some more things. I've been very, very active, and I feel like I'm at a space now that I can, make that adjustment. Now on the leg days, I'm not gonna do anything crazy for the leg days. but I do need to add some additional workouts that are going to build my legs. Bulgarian split squats. Probably get into the leg extensions with some weights. I'm not a big fan of squats, but I will probably try to incorporate some sort of squatting in there. Maybe goblet squats. I'm not a big fan of back squats right now because of how much it grows the glutes. I don't need to do that. So that's where I am, and that's what I'm going to do today. All right, so had a good workout, had some good breakfast. Also got a good opportunity to get a nap in. I think I needed some rest. My body was trying to tell me. So I got me a nap in. I just finished putting all of the groceries away and cleaning out the fridge. Man, you know, when you go through your fridge, sometimes you'll be like, man, what's this in here? Checking on the pool real quick. Looks good. Now, when I put salt in there, it had some like chunks and that dissolved. Only thing I need to do now is the pool looks clear, looks clean. All that stuff was able to circulate. We do have some spots where I need to use that vacuum and just get up. So you can see like a lot of the dirt settles right there. Now that it's settled, I can put the vacuum in there. I may do that today, depending on how I'm feeling. But I need to eat, so I'm gonna eat my lunch. So we're gonna mix it up a little bit today. From last week all I had was chicken breast. Today I'm gonna start off the turkey and get that on the plate. Now when I do this, I don't measure it out. I just take how much I want to eat at that moment. That's one less thing to worry about, is like counting, but I try to make sure it's a decent portion, but not too much. There's like, dang, that's a lot of freaking food. Because just as it's hard to eat less food, it's equally as hard to eat more. And sometimes I think it's harder to eat more, especially those guys who are trying to gain weight and trying to like bulk up. If you're trying to do it the clean way and not the dirty way, which is like the dirty way would be like eating a whole bunch of crap. If you're trying to do it the clean way, you'll be consuming a lot of food in order to bulk up, and it becomes very, very difficult. And I feel like that is harder than trying to eat less food. Some of you, it may be the opposite, but for me, it is definitely the case that it is harder to eat more food and stuff myself. I hate feeling engorged. That's a tough feeling. So we're gonna take our sweet potato. We baked that really nicely last night. I'm gonna split this in half, cut it down the middle. I'm gonna add a little bit of cinnamon. You know, you can put whatever you want in there, honestly. I'm not gonna be as strict this week, but I definitely wanna put some sort of flavor in there. So I'll probably put some cinnamon, maybe a little bit of butter or something like that, but that will help out. You kind of want to refrain from putting too much stuff in here because you're gonna pay for it in the long run. So just put a little bit of something. Maybe it's brown sugar. You're gonna pay for that though. So that's the meal: turkey breast, green beans, and sweet potato. Can you slide your seat up just a little bit more? There you go. That's it. Better head off to football practice. Try to get some of this work in. Just finished cooking dinner for the family. Timmy's gonna finish the rest of it up while I'm gone. I started a little bit late, but I need to grab a couple snacks real quick before I take As a man, I feel like there's this constant need for us to be hard. There's also a lot of talk about just men not being capable of being sensitive enough, or being capable of empathy, or being capable of caring for, children and family in the ways that need to be. Being able to think deeply about their feelings, being able to understand what other people are coming from. I think there are those men out there who believe that in order to be a man, I have to be hard. In order to be a man, I have to be, relentless and unbreakable. And I don't think that's good for anyone to be like that. I think there are people who are like that are, men and women, people who are very brash, who are very unwavering, and those can be strengths or be seen as strengths. I think definitely in the type of, society that we're in, we look at those things as, oh, that person is strong. But is it strong? And is it really, being a man, right? I think there's a lot of men in our lives that, you have seen, maybe it's your dad or your uncle or whatever, who may be in a relationship or whatever. And the reason why that relationship is still kicking to this day is because he's been able to take things on the chin and move on, to be right about something, but also not go after the argument about whether he's right or wrong, to allow things to continue to work just because, hey, he just chooses to live in that state, right? And I think that takes a lot of strength. I think being someone who decides that, hey, this argument is not worth me losing my marriage or losing my relationship or losing contact with the person that I love. So instead of winning this argument, I'll say, okay, it's okay. I'll move on. I'll keep pushing, putting it to the side, right? And a lot of times as men, we hold those things in. We don't talk about them. We don't express them. You won't see videos online about them. Why? Because a lot of times it shows weakness. People see that as being weak, especially coming from a man. They're not used to seeing a man talk about their issues. They're not used to seeing a man talk about their problems or their mindsets. Even what they're going through can also sound like, oh, you're whining. A man should never talk about that. And it's generally just not seen as strength. But I think there's like an issue with that, because the only way to understand your issues, to deal with your traumas, to deal with the things that can be affecting you in life, is to discuss them, to talk about them out loud, to dig deeper. And as a man, we've been learned to press those things down and never go deep enough to find them again. You put it behind you and you keep moving forward. You take the punch and then you get back up, right? No matter what. And so I think there's this kind of interesting conundrum we put men in. Neither one of those things are good for you as a man. Suppressing things, not talking about it, not dealing with it, not not really digging deep in finding out about yourself and your true self. That shows strength, but it doesn't allow you to find the nuances. It doesn't allow you to explore and understand who you are, and really have that emotional intelligence about what you're dealing with and why you're dealing with it. But then the flip side of that is I do find those things. I do become emotionally intelligent. I do discover myself, and I do spend time, and I do become sensitive, and I do find opportunities to find empathy and feel and do all that stuff. But those things, after you do those things, you find yourself. Yes, you're able to be emotional intelligence. Yes, but you're seen as weak. You're seen as not strong. You're seen as like someone who, he can't be a man, right? And I think living between those two things, a lot of times as men, we'll take the lesser of the two evils, right? I would rather be seen as a strong man than a weak man, right? And those are things that are not talked about enough, to the point where I feel like we end up in places where we don't need to be at. Where is the safe space? Where is the dialectic thinking when it comes to men? Where is both things can be true at once? A man can be strong, but also he can feel. Also, he can be sensitive, right? Also, he can be emotionally intelligent. And I think we deal with these things because one of those things yields results. One of those things yields, women, money, success, fame. The other doesn't. No one wants to see that from a man. No one wants to experience that with a man. No one wants to experience sensitivity with a man. They don't want to do that. And so, I think we have to start creating and holding space for ourselves as men to understand that these things are true. Even in sports, I'm dealing with Carter. He's a very, very good athlete. He loves football, but football is a tough sport, man. It's tough. You gotta be strong. You gotta be tough. He's a tough kid, but he's also a sensitive one. He's also a nice kid. And I'm trying to pull that out of him a little bit more, but I want him to understand. And I talked to him about understanding the fact that, dude, you can be a nice guy. You can be a good guy. You can be sensitive. You can care about your teammates. You can care about everyone else on the field. You can care about all these things. These are great. These are great aspects of you. But you have to learn how to flip the switch. Just because you are that doesn't mean that you're not capable of being tough. Doesn't mean you're not capable of being strong. That doesn't mean that you can't step onto the field and say, hey, it's time to play football. Two things can exist at the same time. I told him, when you come off that field, you can shake his hands. You can be best friends. You can give them a hug for all I care. You can cry while you do this. That is okay. It's a hard thing to do. It's tough. Both things can be true at the same time. So I just want to leave you with that. Would love to hear your thoughts about that dialectic thinking. Hear your thoughts about just men in general. I think it's time to start that dialogue and begin to talk about this stuff, because there's a lot that goes on within men that we don't talk about and we don't express and we don't like put out there because it's just not seen as manly. Yeah. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.